Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be talking about a feature that I feel like has kind of flown under the radar. And I don't see a lot of people talking about it. And it's this sync from OneDrive or SharePoint online. And I don't know why people aren't talking about it more. It just, other than it's just kind of flown, I don't remember there being any kind of big fanfare or even much of an announcement at all from Microsoft about this feature, which is strange to me because it basically replaces publishing. Okay. And it does instead of publishing from Power BI, right? You can instead save your file out on OneDrive and then sync it to SharePoint. Um, and it sounds weird, but it actually works pretty cool. And it has some major advantages, I feel like. I mean, if you're trying to talk about something that's kind of game changing, right? The TMDL view, which everybody's calling game changing, is just lame. This is actually something legitimately game changing, in my opinion. So, and I haven't seen anybody really talk about this feature. And the ones that I have seen talk about it don't seem like they fully understand what it's doing. And they don't really do it much justice. And it gets very confusing in terms of what is synced, what is not synced. But I'm going to try to clear all of that up today in this video. Um, and yeah, kind of go through it. Again, Microsoft's documentation on this is terrible. They have this one basic document here, refresh your Power BI desktop file stored on OneDrive or SharePoint Online. And it's very imprecise language. It doesn't really give a good example of like, hey, I do this, I do that, what happens, right? So I'm going to try to clear all that up because again, shocking to me that this feature has flown under the radar. Because it really is fundamentally changed a lot of stuff. And the only reason I'm looking at it, to be honest, is because I had a customer that kind of stumbled onto this and was asking questions about it. So I had to go through and do a bunch of experimentation to see what does it do, what does it not do. I still have some mixed feelings about it because certain things don't work that Microsoft says should work. And it also, there's a complexity aspect to it that I feel like, could there be problems down the road if like the sync breaks and things like that? But let's get into it and I'll try to explain all of this. So as we all know, right, for as long as Power BI has been around, basically, right, you've had this publish button, right? So if I wanted to publish this, I could create my semantic model report. I could say publish, right? And I say, yes, sure, save my changes. I'm on Power BI. And so I pick, where I want to publish this to, hit, select, and it goes and publishes it up. And when I do that, right, when I do that, go back to here, let's go to here. So like if, it splits it into a semantic model and a report, right? So you get a semantic model, you get a report. It splits like this learn Power BI here, right? Here's the semantic model for it, and it's a report. This started as a PBX file called learn Power BI.pbx. But that's what you get when you like publish that out there. Now, syncing is a little different, right? And that's how it's been done for forever. Syncing is different in terms of you have your OneDrive file, and you save your OneDrive file, you save your PBX file out to OneDrive. Now, what you do then is you come into here and you say upload. You say upload, you pick OneDrive, you go out and select your PBX file, right? Here, select my PBX file, hit upload. And that's what I did here with sync test data. And as you can see, it creates sync test, semantic model report, and also creates a sync test .pbx dashboard. Not sure why it creates that, but that's how it works. Um, so, so then you're probably asking, okay, that's interesting, Greg, but like, how does that work exactly? If I want to like refresh this semantic model, right? I have this OneDrive refresh. So when you upload from OneDrive, for example, you get this OneDrive refresh, right? And you also get this sync with OneDrive and SharePoint. So this is a default, it's on. I switched this from restrict updates to automatic updates. And I'm still trying to figure out the nuances between some of this, but it's okay for right now in terms of, but you get these additional settings, I guess is the bottom line. Whereas you don't get these settings if you just do a traditional publish, okay? So, but you also still have the ability to create a refresh schedule as I've done here. right? So I created a refresh schedule where it's updating everything. And so you're probably asking like, okay, well, what's going on here? This is going to refresh data up in the service and keep things updated and bring in new data. So what happens when I go and edit my PBX file and then, is that going to overwrite the data that's being refreshed in the service? What's going on here? And it's a little nuanced. I'm not going to lie. So I did some experiments on it, and so let's get into it. So when I originally created this file, right, this is an RSS feed from Yahoo Finance, okay? And I went out and just, loaded up what was existing in Yahoo Finance as far as the RSS feed. This is showing the minimum date, right, in time from that RSS feed. And this originally, I just had an enter data query, which this originally said this is some data, okay? And then I didn't originally have this calculations table and this measure in here or this visual down here. So I published this up to the service, or I didn't publish it to the service. Sorry, be precise, Greg. I saved this file to OneDrive. Okay. And then I went in and did the update, the upload process that I just kind of went through. That is not it. I want this one, right? I went through and did that update process where I went to my workspace and did upload OneDrive and loaded it up. Okay. So originally, this display right here mirrored my report exactly right after the update, right? These were all the same RSS feed titles. This was the same date and time. This said this is some data, right? And this didn't exist at all. So I set up that refresh schedule and I let this refresh, and where I got, different items here, and this date is different. And as you can see, I've got my sync test open. I just opened this from my OneDrive, but this date and time is the original date and time for the file. And these are the original RSS feed items that came in, okay? So, but out in the service, these things have been updated. So once these things got updated, I went in and said, okay, I'm going to change my enter data query back here in Power BI Desktop to this is some other data. I'm going to create this calculations table, create a measure, which just returns 1. It doesn't do anything, right? And I'm going to add this visual to my report for that measure. So I saved this back to OneDrive. Well, what occurred, it was interesting to me in that the one in the service, this updated because with the new data, right? I got my new visual, which also meant that my new calculations table and my new measure were also brought forward, but this was not overwritten and this was not overwritten. These were still the exact same, or these were the updated from the refreshes that were going on, right? As you can see here, 3 reasons to buy stock, Axon, that's not even included in the original, right? So what appears to me to be going on is that you can set up your refresh of your data in Power BI service, and it will keep, go out and refresh your data. But any changes that you make to the report or the data model, such as going in here and, updating and going here and saying, oh, I'll go here and transform data and change the source to this is some other data, some other even different data, right? If I save that and I'll close and apply it, this is going to update. This is some other even different data, right? So if I go ahead and save this, at some point within about the next hour, right, the report in the service is going to get modified and to reflect this new data that I put here. But I didn't touch this, I didn't touch this, and so these will continue to be refreshed, from the service, and not overwritten with what's in the PBX file. So it only is copying any changes that you made. And so this is where I have some consternation about some of this. It's like, well, there's no real documentation from Microsoft about what is modified? Like, is it anything that's modified? I guess it's anything that you modify in the PBX file and save it to OneDrive that gets synced over to the PBX, the semantic model, the report that is in OneDrive, that is in Power BI service, right? But anything that you haven't touched doesn't get overridden, which I think is fundamentally like changes the game around publishing, in my opinion, right? In terms of there's a lot of advantages to be had with storing these things out in OneDrive or SharePoint Online and then uploading it to the Power BI service, keeping it in sync, allowing the refreshes to happen. But, now I can make incremental changes to my data model, like adding measures and everything else that goes into that gets synced into the service, but I don't have to like hit refresh like before when you're publishing, right? And your PBX file, your semantic model is up there refreshing in the cloud, right? Well, now I need to make, add some new measures and some stuff like that. If I need to republish, so I need to republish that, I better hit refresh now, right? I better hit refresh now so I have the latest data that's sitting in my desktop before I publish it. Otherwise, what's going to happen is I'm going to add some measures. I've got old data here. I republish it and it goes and overwrites everything that's in the service. And now I have to wait for a refresh cycle in the service to get and update everything, right? This seems fundamentally better to me in terms of using SharePoint Online or using OneDrive and using this upload feature and keeping them in sync. So I don't know why it's not getting more notice, I guess, or why are the MVPs love to crow about this is game changing and that's game changing and hype everything up. This seems like something that's legitimately hype worthy. It's just completely flown under the radar. Now, certain things don't work. Like supposedly Microsoft, when they're releasing these features, they were like, "Hey, if it's in OneDrive, you should be able to just click on it and it'll open up and it'll just work and you can immediately see it and everything else." That fundamentally does not work. It is broken as broken can be, as you will see once this loads, right? Completely broken. Like, I don't know. So there are certain things that don't work with this. And that being one of them, right? And the other thing is again, I have my Power BI release file, right? And so I went through and did a search for every update that involved OneDrive, and I can't really find like the announcement for this feature. At least not in the updates log that they have. So I don't know when exactly they released this or if it went to preview or whatever, but like the October 1st, 2023, the Power BI Desktop, OneDrive, and SharePoint integration, if you read through the details on that, it's just talking about the ability to like turn on the preview feature where you can save your file to OneDrive, right? Or you can open a file from OneDrive within Power BI Desktop. It's not really talking about this syncing feature. So I don't really know when it came about, to be quite frank, when it existed. And maybe that's kind of why it's flown under the radar is that Microsoft really hasn't touted it. But, leave it to Microsoft to actually come out with a good feature and then fail to market it. Like all these other crap things that they come out with, they market the hell out of it, like TMDL view. Like, how lame is that thing? But they market the hell out of that stuff. But like something that's actually useful and game changing just completely flies under the radar. Like, how is that even possible? I don't even understand it. So, anyway, have some mixed trepidation, maybe consternation about this because I'm not sure if it's really is it a GA feature? Because like saving the OneDrive from Power BI Desktop, that is a preview feature, right? So I don't know about the service and the syncing. Does that also mean that it's a preview feature? And if it is, you shouldn't be using it because it'll probably bite you down the line, down the line. But if it's a GA feature in the service, I'd love somebody, you know, let me know. I think it's worth taking a look at because it fundamentally solves some big problems, right? So anyway, that's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.